Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Startup Sense podcast. This is your host, Jonah Lupton. Thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, we're bringing you another great episode. And my guest today is Zach Goldstein, calling us from San Francisco. He is the founder of a company called Thanx, Thanx. And the website is thanx.com. The company is just about 50 employees. They've raised $23 million from some kick-ass investors. The seed round was led by SoftTech and Floodgate, and then the Series A and B rounds were led by Sequoia, obviously a name most of us know, one of the top firms out there. Zach is actually a solo founder, and then we'll talk about what it's like being a solo founder as they approach their 5-year anniversary. So let's welcome Zach to the show. Zach, how are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for taking the time to join us. So tell us about Thanx. What exactly does your company do?
Yeah, we're focused on helping offline merchants, real-world businesses, build deeper data-driven relationships with their top customers. And really what that means is when you think about an e-commerce business that does all their business online, or when you think about a large enterprise software business, one thing that's consistently true is that they can tell you exactly who their top customers are and personalize those interactions with those individuals or businesses. That's not generally true for real-world businesses who are often flying blind. And it's a problem because offline commerce is still 13 times larger than online commerce. And so we work with restaurants and retailers and a variety of verticals, car washes, et cetera, to help them build relationships that are based on data, identify those VIPs, and ultimately get those individuals coming back in more often and spending more money to help the business.
I guess the problem is when you're a brick and mortar store, someone walks in, they buy something, they pay cash or they pay with the card, and they leave, and that's it, right? I mean, you don't have a chance to really get anything else out of them.
That's right. The transaction itself doesn't allow the merchant to get any information about who that person is. Have you seen them before? How valuable are they? And so we often say that Thanx is kind of like having an A-plus rock star manager on site 24/7, because those A-plus managers, they recognize the face of their top customer. They walk up and shake their hand. They can see the grimace, which suggests that maybe something didn't go well. The customer had a bad experience and they intervene. But very few businesses truly have that really perceptive manager on site at all times. And that's what technology is there for. But historically, getting that customer data has been hard. All of that transaction information is locked in the point of sale. The point of sale for most of these businesses is a fairly archaic piece of technology that makes it very hard to do analytics and to extract information. And as a result, they're flying blind. And with Thanx, we've eliminated that. We've cut out the hassle of plastic cards, of phone numbers, of point of sale integration, so that for the consumer, it's as simple as walk into a business that you love, pay as usual, and receive rewards based on your loyalty. And for a merchant, there is no hardware, there's no integration. They can flip a switch and start tracking data about their best customers automatically.
So, there was kind of the evolution of, surveys, and then it was punch cards, and then it was mobile apps. How do you guys exactly run your programs?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is kind of the evolution. Is we're watching technology get more and more sophisticated as the need for data becomes more fundamental. The most recent evolution, as I mentioned, is somehow trying to extract data out of the point of sale, and that's really difficult. We've eliminated that step by partnering directly with the credit card networks, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, et cetera. And we do all of the heavy lifting on the back end to capture consumer transaction data so that those consumers can get rewarded and those merchants can get smarter about who's actually coming in. And so there isn't any of that hassle, either for the consumer or for the merchant. And this matters because that hassle is real. Everyone signed up for a program where they have to type in their phone number or carry around countless plastic cards. And it's probably not surprising to you that 60% of consumers who sign up for a loyalty program stop using it within the first 6 months. They go inactive. So they took the effort to sign up, and yet they aren't participating 6 months later. And it's because it's a pain, and consumers are lazy. And so we've played to that strength and made the entire Thanx experience happen effortlessly. As a result, we have better data capture, and we can help our merchants actually act on that information and treat their customers more personally, which is ultimately what we're all looking for.
Who are an example of some of the clients or customers that you guys work with? Do you work with a lot of chains?
Yeah, our sweet spot is multi-location businesses. And so whether it is a famous deep dish pizza place in Chicago, Lou Malnati's, or a high-end consignment store on the East Coast called Second Time Around, or one of the most innovative concepts in the dessert industry that we've seen in a while, Smitten Ice Cream, based in San Francisco, where they make every scoop fresh. These are the types of businesses that we work with, and it's wide-ranging. Great car washes in the Midwest that are super busy after those storms. Even a mall operator. And what we're doing for them, despite the wide range in businesses and verticals that we work in, what we're doing for them really distills down to helping them identify who their top customers are, because the 80-20 rule is real. About 80% of revenue comes from the top 20 to 25% of customers. So you got to know who those people are. And then helping them actually understand when there's a change in behavior. For instance, when a top customer stops coming in, we have automated tools to reach out to them and win them back. When a customer has an experience that's really good or not good, we have automated tools to solicit feedback from them and create that two-way dialogue between the merchant and the customer. That's really what loyalty is all about to us, is that dialogue between the customer and the business that they love.
Now, you guys have raised, like I said in the intro, you've raised a bunch of money, you've hired a bunch of people. How do you find these clients? Is this inbound marketing or is this a lot of outbound marketing?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a question that's changing as we establish our brand. In the early days, of course, there was a lot of outbound, and that's still the case. We're still calling on people who haven't heard of us, and they're focused on the day-to-day of operating their business, and so they're not out there just searching for the next great technology solution. So we call them and have a conversation. But a lot more recently, we're seeing our customers refer their friends. We're seeing people that use our product as a consumer and then realize that it could be a fit for their business. And that's providing us a lot of leverage. I think one of the challenges when people think about the industry of selling into offline businesses and into SMBs, the concern is generally churn, that even if you can get people to buy your technology, they're not going to be using it a year later. That is very different for our product. We see churn in the single digits, which is unheard of in the offline world. And it's because we can drive to measurable ROI, and you're not going to pull Thanx out if it's driving incremental dollars into your business, and we can prove it. And so that's a big difference, and it gives us leverage in terms of our customers referring others and sticking with us a long time and really building that relationship.
And what's been your recruiting strategy so far? You're in San Francisco. Obviously, it's very competitive out there for talent. How have you been able to lure the right people to your company?
That's a tough question.
I like to ask
the reality is it is indeed really hard right now. There is a lot of competition for top talent, particularly for some of the roles. Engineers with certain specialties, designers, demand generation type marketers. There's a lot of competition. And so we do a couple things. We have focused highly on our people. And so we look for people that are passionate about what we're doing. We hire heavily from within the network of our existing employees, where people actually will vouch for someone else. We invest a lot in training and making people successful, and we have a lot of fun. And so we push responsibility down the organization, and this is something that we emphasize in our recruiting process. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that we have 5 stars on Glassdoor. And when you look, it's not 2 reviews; it's a large number of them. People like working here, and so recognizing that it's a tough talent market, we have focused on, ironically, on loyalty, on employee loyalty. If we can give a great place for people to work, we can retain our employees longer than a lot of places in the Bay Area are doing, and as a result, we don't have to hire quite as often. And that's been, I think, a secret weapon for us.
This is Jonah Lupton, founder of Jewel and host of the Startup Sense podcast. At Jewel, we help entrepreneurs and startup founders build, launch, and grow their companies by providing superior technology, marketing, and consulting services. We help clients of all sizes, budgets, and industries. We put our clients in the best position to raise capital, grow revenues, hire employees, and maximize their profits. For more information or to set up a free consultation with our team, please visit our website at jool.net. That's JOOL.net. What is your pricing model? So how much do clients typically pay you guys?
Yeah, we charge a subscription pricing based on the number of locations of the business. And so generally it ends up costing anywhere between $100 and $500 per location per month. And that's a crazy wide range. And it's because we have a pretty wide breadth of the solutions that we offer. A basic loyalty program's on the low end, but a fully branded mobile experience with integrated customer feedback and automated campaigns, like I mentioned, that's going to be more on the high end. And it's important because every business has different needs, and not everyone needs the Cadillac solution on day one. And so we offer something lighter weight. But we do consistently find that as our relationship goes on with merchants, they steadily have need for more and more of the technology that we've built, and that's a nice path to expansion.
Now, in terms of the investors, so SoftBank is definitely one of the top seed investors out there, and Sequoia is definitely one of the top overall VC investors and growth equity investors. How were you able to get them on board, and what has it been like working with them so far?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the vision we have for the business. This is about bringing data to the offline world. $4 trillion spent in brick and mortar businesses every year. And the fact that they are blind to who their customers are is a problem that must be solved. It's being solved in a lot of different ways, whether that's next generation point of sales, or various attempts at bringing loyalty technology to a more modern interface, whether it's campaign tools and more sophisticated email. There are people trying to scratch the surface of this, but I think one thing that has always been true is lacking customer lifetime value data. A lot of businesses have tried to use stand-in metrics, opens and clicks on emails, or number of reviews, or reservations made, or redemptions of coupons. There's big businesses have been built around each of those things, but none of those businesses know the lifetime value of your customer. And it's kind of ironic because when you look at what an investor is looking at in our business, they're looking at what is the customer acquisition cost? How much does it cost us to acquire that customer? And what is the lifetime value of that customer? How long does that customer stay with our product? That's the same fundamental business principle that our merchants should be using when they think about growing their business, but they don't have the data to do it. And so Thanx is ushering in this broader data wave. And we do it without the dependencies on hardware, point of sale, the things that have historically made it very difficult to get mass scale in this market. So that's the first part of your question, I think, is where the vision was. Loyalty is one part of that. but I think it's a much broader play on data. And in terms of working with those investors, I mean, there's a reason that SoftTech and Sequoia, for instance, have earned those reputations.
Sure.
They are trying to build great businesses, and one of the things that our board member from Sequoia has said to me repeatedly when making a tough decision is, well, what's the right decision if you're going to be $1 billion business? Don't optimize for now. Don't optimize for the thing that will be the easiest decision in the immediate term. Optimize for building a great category killing business. And whether that's making a hire taking a little longer to make a hire than you'd like because you're going to get the person who's really great, or optimizing on making sure that doors stay open to keep the market size as large as possible, not specializing in a particular industry or something like that. Those are consistently good decisions for us as we really try to build a game-changing company. And one thing that I can say about all of our investors is that they have been really aligned around that vision of building something that's going to fundamentally change the way our customers, our merchants, are able to do business.
Now, as I mentioned in the intro, you are a solo founder, which seems to be a little rare today amongst tech companies, especially the ones that I interview, because most of the companies I interview have raised money, and investors don't usually invest in solo founder teams. So why did you why did you start the company by yourself? And then how quickly did you start hiring people around you?
It was hard. It is hard. I think that there's a reason that building a company from scratch takes a lot of great people. And so I was fortunate to bring on some great people very quickly in the early stages of the business to lead our technical team, to lead our product and design function. And so those folks are fundamental. And I think it emphasizes whether you're recruiting people to start a company with or your first couple of hires, success is going to be dependent on those individuals. And I'm proud to say that our core team that we started with is still here at the business 4+ years later, because we're building something great. In terms of how to get going as a sole founder, I think it's about making sure you have the right advisors and the right support network around. And whether that support network comes from those first couple people you bring on, or whether it's external to the business, there's just too much to learn, and too much, frankly, that goes wrong. You need to have some people to bounce ideas off of and just vent to. And I think I feel fortunate to have had some really strong personal advisors that helped me through that early founding stage.
What were some of the mistakes that you made then in the beginning? I mean, any entrepreneur has probably made a bunch of them. Any that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is a lot of the mistakes I've made were things that if I was sitting in a business school classroom and reading a case, I would have known the right answer, but I made the mistake anyways. You got to be careful with hiring. I think that the mantra of hire slow, fire fast is true on both dimensions, and I've made both mistakes. Your people matter, and taking the time to make sure you're hiring someone who is great and is a star and will enhance the performance of those around them, as opposed to be detrimental. It's massively important for the success of the business. And similarly, when people aren't working, I think it's equally important to move on. And I think I've made that mistake thinking that something will change. And by the way, I've also learned that when moving on quickly, it's often better for the employee too. There wasn't a fit for some reason or another, and they can find a better place that's a better fit for them. And so that's certainly a mistake I've made repeatedly and gotten better at recognizing over time. I think, ironically for us, a lot of the concern that you hear out of out of the startup world is people raise a bunch of money and they burn it too fast, and they just scale up their business too quickly. And that hasn't been a problem for us. We've been a very lean organization until recently. That out of that sum of money that we raised, almost all of it came in the most recent round. Our previous rounds were very, very lean, and so we stayed thrifty. And I think that's a good attribute of the business. But at times, when something was working, I think it would have been a good decision to really invest a little earlier. To just say that's working. It's not 100% proven yet, but we should really be pouring more resources behind that, because that's going to really accelerate the business. And I think on a couple occasions we've been a little gun shy. We want to prove it one more time. And I would have seen growth take off had we been a little bit more aggressive and not focused on just preserving capital. And so that's an important shift that I think any business needs to make, is there's a time to really be focusing on preserving capital. But when you've got it figured out, it's time to invest in growth. And that question of product market fit is theoretically so easy to know, but it's nailing that switch when you really have found the product market fit is, I think, a really important element of a successful growth story.
Would you say that, I mean, this is kind of a hard question, but SoftTech is certainly early stage investing, so that's risky, right? I mean, because you don't really have a product at that point. Maybe you have a product, but it's so early that, I mean, it's almost a crapshoot in some cases. Versus the Sequoias, where they're really coming in with buckets of cash after you find that product market fit to really help you accelerate. Would you say that the Sequoias of the world are more aggressive than the early stage investors?
I think they certainly have a different approach, but I wouldn't say that they're necessarily aggressive. When you're a fund of Sequoia's size, though, the only way you really make a difference is if you invest in completely game-changing companies. And so the Sequoia language is category killers. And I think that's an important message to me that's reinforced every time I meet some of the other portfolio companies and some of the great success stories in the Sequoia portfolio is for us to be successful, that's what we aspire to be. And we see that opportunity in our space. And it's not necessarily aggressive, but it is setting a lofty bar for what the company can achieve. And that's reinforced in every interaction with them. I think the thing that was really fortunate about some of our early stage investors like SoftTech is their expertise is in the founding stage. And that was a big asset, right? I was a first-time entrepreneur, first-time CEO. Being a part of a group of other first-time entrepreneurs and CEOs, having investors like Jeff and Stephanie who have seen that story before and kind of knew some of the little things to watch out for. That's really helpful when things are moving so quickly in the early stages of company building. And I feel fortunate in all of the investors we've had is, we were thoughtful each time we made a decision to take on an investor. We made sure we were bringing on the right one. And so far it's worked out well, where we have only good things to say about really all of our investors. And from talking to a lot of startups, that's not always the case.
You've been at this for almost 5 years now with the company. What's been the most difficult day, and then what's been your favorite day? Do any two stand out?
Yeah, good question. There are lots on both sides, to be honest. So I don't know if
that could be like a 3-hour call in itself.
Totally. If we want to spend the rest of the afternoon just talking about the good and the bad days, we could. I'd say two things stood out as really remarkable. The first time I used our own product was obviously a big deal, but I'd say the more impactful thing to me was the first time I got an unsolicited note from a customer raving about our product. Someone that had taken time, and I remember receiving the note because I think I read it 7 or 8 times before taking my eyes off of it. Someone took the time because we had delivered a really delightful experience and solved a problem for them. And this business owner had lots of other stuff they could have done and decided to send a personal note letting me know that. And that was a big deal. They were not only complimentary of our product, but of our team and the way our team treated them as a customer. And that was an inflection point for me that we have people that love what we're doing. Tough days. What stands out to me is it hasn't happened too often, but on a few occasions, losing out on a hire that someone I really wanted to work with, and that goes back to your competitive hiring environment. Sometimes the fit is great, but that employee had a great fit somewhere else too, and when we're really focused on hiring people that are passionate about what we're doing at Thanx and who are going to be great cultural fits, and we introduce them to a lot of our team. And, there's like a little bit of a dating phenomenon. You meet them over and over again, and you start really appreciating what this individual can bring to the company, and losing out and watching them go somewhere else is pretty heartbreaking. Because then the immediate thing you need to do 20 minutes later is start recruiting for that role again. and that it not only is the fear that can you find someone just as good, but it's also the amount of time that's about to be sunk into making that hire when you were so close. So those have been some of my darkest days, I think.
Right. You invest a lot of time, and you probably spend at least a quarter to a third of your time on recruiting, right? Finding talent.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually more right now, but in general, I'd say that's about right. Right now, we're trying to grow considerably. We're on the verge of opening a second office, and so it's a lot of my time is recruiting right now. And so to be close and have it not work out on any dimension is tough. But when it's with regard to people, I think it's particularly painful.
What is the main reason behind opening up a second office?
I think there's great talent across the country, and not all of those folks want to come to San Francisco.
Right.
San Francisco is getting really expensive, and I think we want to access a broader talent pool. And so opening a second office will give us access to great individuals who would be perfect for the Thanx family, but might not want to come to San Francisco or work here. And so we're going to focus a lot of our energy immediately in hiring salespeople in that office. But I think that we'll likely be open to all functions as we expand, because one thing I'm hearing consistently is just how great some of the companies that have opened second and third offices, how great they're finding the talent all throughout the country. And we want those people to be able to work at Thanx too.
This is a tough question, but it's one that I'll throw out there for you, and it's kind of curious how you answer it. What is the end game for the company? Meaning, since you guys have raised a lot of money, that means either an IPO someday, a big acquisition someday, or do you just run this as a profitable, self-sustaining business?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that I think very little about the outcome or the exit of the business. I think there's too many moving pieces. There's a lot of other players in the space who could be partners, who could be competitors, who could be any number of relationships with them. There's too much going on. The one thing that we can do well is we can focus on building a great company that has customers that love us, that keeps growing at a monumental rate. And if we keep doing that, I'm not really concerned about where we're going to be. I do see a clear path, and our investors are aligned around a clear path to building a fundamental game-changing business for offline retail, making them data-enabled in a way that they've never been before. And if we successfully execute on that vision, and we have a great start so far, we're going to be just fine.
So I'll end on this question. If you were to, grab coffee tomorrow with an entrepreneur and he said, what's one thing that you've learned over the last 5 years that I need to know to build a great company, what would you tell him?
Someone who hasn't yet started it, they're thinking about it, my advice would be only do this if you find something that you're irrationally passionate about. Because this is a hard path. It's challenging every single day. And I think the thing that I've come to realize that fuels me is, for some weird reason, this problem that we're solving bothers me, and I have a passion to fix it. And that's the case with most of our team, by the way, who not exactly the same passion, but they have found something that they are deeply focused on. And so as an entrepreneur, I think that's what makes all those ups and downs tolerable, and in fact even joyful. And then I think, on a related note, for someone that has already started it, or even maybe if they haven't yet, my advice generally comes down to the people. What I think has made it so possible to go what's coming up on 5 years now in building this business, and what we hope to have many more, is the people I work with are great fun, and I enjoy it, and I learn from them, and I'm challenged by them. And you work too hard building a company for that not to be the case. And I think everyone would say that, but the rubber meets the road when you have a decision, for instance, between hire someone who would be awesome at the job, but who you're not going to get along with well, or who might be a little bit dangerous culturally. Don't make that risk. Some people call it the no assholes rule, and I tend to agree. Hire people that you would want to spend a lot of time with, because you're going to.
Yeah, I've heard Elon Musk. I mean, someone asked him that question at a dinner party once. What's one piece of advice that you've learned? And it's get rid of the bad people as fast as you can.
100%.
Yeah, or just don't hire them in the first place. Well, thank you so much, Zach. I really appreciate your time today. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you and learning more about the company. What's the best way for the audience to connect with you online? Do you use social media, or do you want to give an email address?
Yeah, probably Twitter. Z Goldstein is my Twitter handle. Thanx Inc. THANXINC is the company's Twitter handle. And as you mentioned at the top of the podcast, the website is thanx.com, THANX.com. Any of those will be a great place to start.
Cool. And if any of the audience members are running a brick and mortar business, they can just reach out to the company and set up some sort of a demo or a sales call, right?
That's right.
Cool. Well, appreciate it, man. It was great talking with you, and certainly let's stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it.
Okay. Talk to you soon, Zach. Bye.